Hi everyone, and welcome to my Age of Wonders 3 video. For those of you who don't know, Age of Wonders 3 is a turn-based strategy game with fantasy elements. Imagine if you took something like Civilization and crossed it with Heroes of Might and Magic and then added some XCOM-esque combat elements to it. It's a really great mix, and I want to show you guys why I think it is such a great game. To start off, I just want to show you a bit about, character creation, I guess is what you'd call it, but it's really just map and civilization creation. The map that we'll be doing is a medium map. The maps are really big. You'll see I have a game that I'm going to load into, and it's a medium map, and it's fairly large in my opinion. All sorts of different settings. I won't go too in-depth into them, just you can kind of see all the different little sliders that you can do. Then as well, on top of that, you have the option for classic and simultaneous turns, allied victory. You have different advanced rules over here. You can speed up the game, resources, starting skills. Yeah, just all sorts of different little things. Again, don't want to go too in deep into them because I'd rather show you the game itself. Here we can go into the different leaders. Now your leader defines what type of race, I guess. I mean, if you want to use Civilization or Heroes of Might and Magic terms, it's what race you're going to be. And it is a combination of two things. Your actual race and then the class. Now, the race will mostly define like what starting units you get, as well as the different flavors of class units that you get. So, for example, if you take the Warlord has a lot of cavalry, a lot of infantry, a lot of pikemen, but if I make a High Elf Warlord, all of them will have bonuses specific to High Elves, even though they're Warlord class units. Over here we have different specializations you can choose as well to further specialize your character. So, for example, if you wanted to be a good warlord, don't know why you would, but if you wanted to be a good warlord, you could take Keeper of the Peace, the Adept and Master level abilities, and maybe you wanted to do Creation as well. We're just going to be a goody two-shoes warlord. Now these specializations will affect what different skills you have to research in the game, as well as different abilities that you can use, and they even have certain passives and things like that. After that, you can get into the character look. You can really... there's a lot of different looks, a lot of different stances. Actually, I mean, it's fairly... You won't really be looking at your actual unit that much, but it's just kind of fun to mess around, and for, I guess, role-playing purposes, you can kind of mess with your look. And then if you really want to save them or not, you can do that. Anyways, we're going to go back, because like I said, I have a save game that I would rather show you, because the beginning of the game could be a little bit slow, especially for demonstration purposes. I wanted to show you something a little bit more into the game. So we'll continue. This is a Draconian Druid that I've been playing. It's a lot of fun. It's a fairly standard class. They rely on a lot of summoned units and magic, as well as buffs to growth and things like that. So this is the world map. You can see I'm the red player. This was my starting city right here. This is a dragon city I have allied with. This is a city over here that I founded, and then one that I actually took over down here. This is where my main army is at the moment. If you look, I chose to stop my game right here because this was actually the first time I met another player. There's this other player unit up here, so I figured that would give me a chance to show the diplomacy aspect of things. Before I actually go and declare war on this guy, let me show you the diplomacy. So, the diplomacy, to be perfectly honest, isn't very interesting. There's very basic things: peace, war. You can trade different items, different resources. You can even try and trade towns with people in order to negotiate different things. But what I want to do more than anything is just kill this guy. Give you a good taste of the combat. Now it's asking me if I want to actually declare war on this guy. I do. If you look at our armies, I have my main hero as well as a second hero, and 4 other units. He just has a secondary hero and a secondary unit, so that's why it's saying I'm very, very likely to win this. There is an auto combat, but if you're using auto combat, you're missing out on one of the key points of this game, which is the tactical combat. Unlike Civilization, combat takes place on an entirely different map. I'll show you what it's like. Now, be aware, these animations will feel really slow. You can speed them up. I've kept them slow just for the purposes of this video so that first-timers will know what's going on. So the defender moves first. So he's moving his units up, and each of them has ranged attacks that they were using. Now, let me show you. If you click on each individual unit, you can see they have kind of different things they can do. Some of them is very basic, just moving them. Melee strikes, defense, and then this Draconian Flamer has an ability called Firebomb. I can actually chuck an AoE attack their way, which is really handy. If you want a more in-depth look at the units, you can see, his abilities there. When this Tigran Shredder hit me, it applied a bleeding debuff, which is right here. The last 2 turns, I take 4 damage on this unit at the start of each round. And there's just basic things that it looks like a lot of abilities, but this actually isn't that many, and a lot of them don't really do all that much. So, for example, lava walking. Okay, yes, this unit can walk on lava. That is very situationally useful. An archer is just what unit type it is. Draconian is the race, and it'll show you the different bonuses that you get for being a Draconian unit, one of them being fast healing. You can even see, if I mouse over the fast healing, in parentheses below it says Draconian, to give you an idea of where that buff is coming from. As well as my different resistances and weaknesses. If you go to a different unit, for example, my main hero, it'll show you that I can cast spells, befriend animals. I have an ability called Nourishing Meal that heals. I can shoot a longbow, as well as a lot of other different bonuses. A lot of them are, like this one for example, they're geared around buffing the rest of my army. So everyone in this group of units that I have gets an extra 40% blight protection, which is nice. And it also shows you over here his items as well. So let's start out. I think I will start with these guys. I tend to prefer using my AoE attacks before I move my units into place. And before I move melee units into place, it's just stupid to run them in there and have them get hit by fireballs. Now normally I wouldn't be quite so aggressive with these archers because they're very weak. They will die very quickly if they're engaged in melee. However, since he only has 2 units, I do expect to be able to finish off his entire army before he's able to move again. Okay, so now you probably have wondered, what is the difference in all this color in the movement grid? The different colors represent how many actions you can perform. Certain abilities like the firebomb, you can only do once. You can't do multiple firebombs just because you are still within your green movement allowance. Other abilities, however, like the shoot longbow, if I keep him in green movement when I use it, he'll shoot 3 times. If I do it within yellow, it's twice, and orange, he'll shoot once. That also applies to melee attacks. If you are able to attack with someone within your yellow movement allowance, you'll get 2, 3, and 1, and so on. So what I'm going to try and do is see if I can keep him within his green movement allowance and shoot my longbow at him. Now I could do that, however I am taking a penalty from having this rock in here. It's going to do 50% less damage because of a line of sight penalty. So rather than taking 3 50% damage shots, I'm going to move him this way, get him out of the line of sight, and have 2 full damage shots. It's just a little bit more damage by doing it that way. Again, these animations probably feel very slow, it's just because I have them turned down right now. Now, By attacking him from this angle, it actually turned this unit in that direction to face the attack. That means that my other hero unit can actually sneak up behind him, and you'll see that it says I'm getting a flanking attack. Flanking just means that you'll get extra damage on the attack that you perform, as well as I get a charge bonus. Most cavalry units, he's a cavalry, will have a charge ability. Basically, if you move 3 or more hexes, you deal extra damage. So I'm going to move him in. Flanking also prevents him from counterattacking. Normally when you attack someone in melee, they will get a counterattack on you, but since he is doing a single flanking attack, the enemy will not retaliate. And it deals a lot of damage. And again, he turned to face this attacker, so now my Draconian Raptor can do basically the same thing, a flanking charge attack from the other side. And there we go. And that is the end of combat. You'll notice that he actually, since I killed a hero, he left behind some items. One of them, which happens to be a mount. If you look right now, I happen to be on the kind of default dragon mount, but if I go like this, he's given a dire Panther mount, which gives him 3 different abilities. He gets a pounce ability that he can do, as well as a predator buff. I'm not exactly sure what that does. Oh, attacks of opportunity. So if someone runs by you, then you get extra damage on those attacks, as well as athletics. Oh, so he moves faster in tactical combat, which is kind of nice. So I'll go ahead and take that. I'll also take his crossbow, which now I can fire his crossbow in combat as well. Units do gain XP. You can see these little medals next to my units indicates what rank they are. So my Draconian Flamer is Elite, and you can see all the bonuses that he's gotten for being Trooper, Veteran, Expert, and then Elite. As well as, most of them are just passive buffs. However, when he reached Elite, he did get an Inflict Scorching Heat ability that makes people lose strength for 3 turns. I'm not exactly sure what it means by strength. I know there's defense and resistance and hit points. I think it may just mean they do less damage on melee strikes, but that's actually not terribly clear. I'm not 100% sure what it does. Hero units and your leader, instead of just having kind of passive buffs, they actually have different abilities that you can take for points. Right now I have 2 remaining hero upgrades. For example, I could take the ability Awaken Spirit. Druids tend to be very specific about buffing animals and monsters that are in their armies. So, for example, I can give a target-friendly animal 3 extra physical damage and 500 morale until the end of combat. Just kind of nice. That would make him more likely to crit and things like that. Anyways, so I defeated him. There's another combat I could do over here that would actually be quite difficult. These bleak wargs and yetis are fairly strong. I think I will just show you one little interesting thing about the combat with this. I won't actually fight them. There's a rule in this game called the Adjacent Hex Rule. Now, if combat were limited to just 2 6-unit, people fighting each other all the time, that would be pretty boring. However, the combats can get much larger because of this rule. So if I move this single raptor in here, every unit adjacent to where combat is taking place will be brought in. So you can see the western hex of my other 5 units will be brought in to assist this raptor. Now, this actually can apply to allies as well. So if you're playing with a friend and you're allied and you're sieging a city or something like that, you can both engage in the combat, just if you have units all around the combat area. Like I said, I won't actually do that. You may notice what I was doing here, clicking on the different units, it actually splits them up. The reason these guys can move farther is that they're cavalry, rather than just being these 3 little Draconian Flamers. So that was a taste of the combat, and it's honestly the most interesting part of the game. If you didn't like the combat, you probably won't enjoy this game. If you're looking for something, you know, Crusader Kings-esque or even Civilization-esque in terms of depth when it comes to the economic and technological aspect of things, you're not going to find it here. It has very functional economic aspects to it, but nothing that's going to terribly impress anyone. So if I click on my city, I can see this is my building queue right here, as well as all the units I can build, buildings I can build. I can do options. So if I wanted, I could raise my own city or plunder it. I'm not going to do that. It's stupid. As well as the ability to sell different things if for whatever reason I decided, well, I have plenty of mana, I don't need my shrine anymore, I could get 20 gold off of it. Honestly, it's not really worth doing that very often, but before I show you all the different buildings, if you haven't seen already, these are the resources up here. Your two main resources are gold and mana, and it shows also the increase that I'm getting. If you mouse over any one of them, it'll tell you a basic overview of how much I'm getting and how much I'm spending and where I'm spending it. This is knowledge, which is basically research, and casting points. While you can cast spells in the combat, you can also cast these spells on the world map. For example, you've probably seen these little leaves floating around. That is a world map spell that I've cast on this city to increase the population growth of this city. It's called Fertile Domain. You can see it under the bonuses there. What that does is it just makes it so that my city will eventually get bigger, produce more money and mana and things like that. It also increases the border of the city. Now right now I'm just producing merchandise. That's the basic I'm not building anything option, and I still have plenty of things to build in here, so instead of producing merchandise, I think I will probably take an observatory. This will give me extra research as well as increase the radius of my city. If I go up here, I can see my other city was actually doing the same. I believe it's because they both just built, like, finished building things. I didn't have them on idle production queues. I think I will produce a storehouse. This just increases the population of the city. If you look over here, this particular city is actually a dragon dwelling. They aren't actually mine. I can't manage them yet, but they're what's called a vassal, or they're basically just an ally of mine. And if I click on the city, you'll see they actually do give me income in terms of money, gold, and research every turn. As well as occasionally they'll give you tributes. As a matter of fact, if you look on the lower right, it will tell you that they are offering me a tribute, and I can ask, or I can, select which I would prefer. I feel like I'm doing fine on mana right now, so I will go ahead and take the 230 extra gold. Over here, at the city that I conquered a couple turns ago, I actually still can't build anything yet. I decided to absorb this half-elf civilization into my empire, and so there is a 4-turn cooldown before I can actually build anything there. Next up, there is the research tree. When I was telling you about all those different specializations when we were creating our peaceful warlord, I was telling you that those specializations would affect my skills that I could research. Well, these are the skills that you are looking to research. All of the ones with the little columns around them, those are passive abilities. So the ability to produce a shaman, this is basically just like a tech tree for better units. This one, for example, will give me more casting points when I kill undead or summoned units, basically units of magical origin. These ones with the blue around them are buffs that I can do on the world map. So for example, I can actually terraform different parts of the map in order to provide different bonuses to my cities. I can deal damage to a unit if I research this. I can deal damage before I even go into combat with them. It's actually a way you can siege cities by repeatedly casting Sunburst on them in order to damage the units inside that city. And then you have the combat spells here as well. Okay, actually I didn't even pick any of them. I think I will pick Sunburst just because I like that idea of being able to siege the cities. And then this is, I'm just clearing out all the notifications, which is telling me that I declared war on them. It is now telling me that I have a different unit which I can move. I believe I was going to be moving them down this way in order to protect my cities, but I think instead I will go ahead and attack. I think I'll move them over here. They used to be over here. I want to attack this treasure site right here. This unit is just guarding this city, especially since now I have an enemy over here. I just want someone here so that he doesn't just fly a single unit in and take over my city. What I'll do is I actually just camp him so that the game doesn't keep reminding me that he's there. Actually, just move those units back together, tell them okay, I don't need to speak with them anymore. This unit is a White Witch I got from completing a quest all the way up here. This is a Frostling town that I've been courting, I guess you could say. As a matter of fact, I think I will even just propose that they become a vassal. And that way we become allied, and again I get money and research from them every turn. So that investment will pay back over time. And this White Witch, the reason I am taking her over there is because she, if you look, is, as a Frostling, they get bonuses to being on frosty terrain. So she will be more effective fighting over there than she would be fighting on volcanic. As a matter of fact, you can see her morale is low because she's on volcanic. Hates it, doesn't like the heat. I'll go ahead and move her over there. That's actually kind of dangerous, considering there's a pirate nest right there, so that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. I should have just taken a longer route. These guys I was moving back. Oh, these are the ones I was moving back to defend my city. And then this unit was coming to reinforce over here as well, telling me that I have formed an alliance. Eventually you can have them join your empire. I don't know if I will. Sometimes it's handy to just have the income from a vassal. I don't have to worry about defending it. They still provide me money. I don't have to worry about building up the city. However, I'll never actually get units. I mean, every so often they do grant you a unit or two, but it's not as much production that I could get from the city as if I outright owned it. Some other things to look at. Right now I am preparing to cast a spell. Like I said, druids are very big into their summons. This is a spell that I've been casting for the past 4 turns that will summon a random animal, usually tier 2, tier 3 animal. There's 4 tiers in total. And the reason it's taken me 4 turns is because I only have 20 casting points per turn. If I had more more casting points, then that would go faster. So that's all I can do for now, so I will go ahead and end my turn. It will go through and show all of the different players and independents taking their turn. And now it's my turn. Okay, so it's telling me that this town here was finally absorbed into my empire. So now I can actually build things in it. I think the first thing I'll do is build a builder's hall. That'll just help me build things faster in that town. I can also now cast my Eldritch Animal spell. I think I will cast it up here, since she only has 5 units in there. I'll give her a 6th. So it gave me another Dire Bear. Those are actually very good. They're fairly simple units, but they just 70 hit points, a really powerful strike, and they're also animals, so my different druid buffs can buff them up quite nicely. And you'll see that took 10 of my 20 current casting points, so I can still start casting another spell for later on. I think I will cast... I think I'll actually just cast another Eldritch Animal. You'll notice as well, before my mana income was 16 per turn, now it's 4 per turn, because these do have an upkeep of mana. You can see right there, 12 mana per turn upkeep to keep them summoned. Before I go into combat, there's some other things. Race governance, this is just something that the more you use and placate particular races, there's different buffs. I already had the level 1, and they're kind of mutually exclusive things. One's usually more focused on combat, the other one is more focused on economy. So I could get it so that Magma Forges give me more production, or so that my main Draconian Crushers and the cavalry that I have gain the regrowth ability, which will slowly heal them. I think I will take that. A hero is offering to join me for 250 gold. Unfortunately, I don't have enough money, so I'm not a particular fan of the Dreadnought heroes, so I will tell them that I require a different type of hero. Told me that this town has actually increased, or that it actually increased to a town now, so the borders have expanded. And now I will just show you one more combat. I mean, you've gotten the basic gist of the game. The city sieges can be quite interesting because there are a lot of... I mean, just the defensive advantage of having walls behind you changes the way the combat works significantly. You can defend a city with very few archer units against a much larger army, and it's interesting to see how that works. It makes taking cities sometimes a very difficult thing. So I'll go ahead and move in. These Wisps, if you do pick up this game, beware these Wisps. They are tier 1, but they are annoying if you do not have range damage. And I will show you why, because I actually don't have much range damage on this. So they get to move first because they're defending. Now, they're moving fairly modestly. They actually do have an ability called Phase that would let them teleport. You can actually even click on it, even though they're not your unit, and you can see how far they can teleport. It's quite a distance. What makes them so annoying, though, is this static shield combined with 60% physical protection. So they only have 16 hit points, but they take very little damage from physical attacks. Now, luckily, I have 2 Hellhounds and a Fire Wyvern, both of which deal good amounts of fire damage, so this shouldn't be too difficult of a combat. But just by attacking them in melee, I have a chance of becoming stunned. I resisted it, but still took damage, and they still got a counterattack. I'll move this one up here. He also resisted the stun. They got a counterattack on him as well. I think I will try to move this guy in range to use his longbow on this unit up here. Move this bear up here. Now, normally you would think, oh, I should get a flanking attack. Well, since the unit defended, you actually cannot flank them. They'll get a counterattack on me, no matter where. See, that time he actually did get stunned. He didn't resist the static shield. Stunned basically means you can't take any action, which includes defending, so any attack from any unit will be a flanking attack on that Hellhound. Now, luckily, I have 6 fairly high tier units, so against 3 Wisps, it's not going to be that big of a deal. But if ever you are in a situation against Wisps where the fight looks like it'll be even, it won't be. Now, the reason I wanted to take that site is because it actually gave me 69 casting points, which allows me now to completely cast my Eldritch Animal spell, rather than having to wait a number of turns for it. So I will cast it over here to reinforce my position since I expect to be at war with these guys here in a bit. There's lots of other different places you can go, different treasure sites. It'll tell you roughly how difficult of a fight to expect, as well as... And these places, not only will they have treasure, but if you build a town next to them, they have income as well. Sometimes they also have special abilities. For example, this one is one I'm particularly interested in. If I have a town with this inside my domain, it will remove all Arctic penalties from my units. Now, being Draconian, we don't generally like the frost. Like right now I'm taking a morale hit just because I am in Arctic terrain. If I had a Draconian town in Arctic terrain, it would have very, very bad happiness, which would lower its production of everything. And if I'm just able to get a town that includes this in its domain, I will no longer suffer any of those penalties. It's kind of a nice little strategic landmark that I want to claim. Anyways, this has been Age of Wonders 3. I'm just going to show you just how large the map is. This is about 30, 35 turns in, I think, something like that. 29 turns. And I am just only meeting one of the other 5 people, and I've only explored this much of a medium map. This actually is also a 2-sided map. There is an underground as well that I have not yet explored. I must have gotten some sort of resource site that showed me that there was a town right there, but other than that, I can't see anything under the ground. So this is Age of Wonders 3. It's a very fun, very interesting turn-based strategy game. If you at all have experience with Civilization, Heroes of Might and Magic, I think you would appreciate it. Even sometimes when people say, oh, I liked XCOM's combat, I'll occasionally recommend this. I realize it's not quite as in-depth as XCOM's combat is, but it has similar aspects of, you know, flanking, using unit abilities in order to wear down your opponent's position and things like that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, the game is available over on GOG.com as well as on Steam. There are 2 expansions. If you're going to pick one of the 2, I would probably pick the Eternal Lords expansion. They're both good, just the Eternal Lords expansion offers more. It gives you the Necromancer class and the Frostling as well as Tigran races, whereas I think the Golden Realms expansion only gives you the Halfling race. I could be wrong about that, but I do know that Eternal Lords does offer you more content in general, and I believe they're the same price. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later.